So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. I love what you're building at Black Tech Street. Love the big vision. Love the mission of it all. Um, tell me what you have. Tell me what your vision is for your company and the impact that you're trying to bring.
For sure. Let's jump in. So, Tyrus Billingsley, born and raised Tulsa, relative of survivors. I've always had a passion for both, politics and entrepreneurship, and having a kind of deep connection to Black Wall Street. And I mean, we know just to take us through it, we'll go through that history. So a lot of people know the story of Black Wall Street, even if they don't know a lot in depth. We once had the most affluent African American community of entrepreneurs in the history of the country. Was destroyed in the 1921 Tulsa race massacre, and that's kind of defined the narrative ever since. So, with me being a descendant and being somebody who's born and raised in this community, I began to think about, what could Black Wall Street have been had it been supported and not destroyed, and looking at the level of tenacity and resilience that these Black entrepreneurs had to build these incredible businesses during Jim Crow. The whole smashing through walls mentality and not letting anything stop you. That reminded me a whole lot of the tech industry. And when I combined that with the fact that the tech industry has an outsized influence on the global economy, it's the core medium for global innovation, and that it's one of the only industries where if you're successful, you can create intergenerational wealth in 7 to 10 years. And coupling that with the fact that African Americans in America have there's a massive wealth gap between black households and white households. I kind of thought that tech was something that was not only on the frontier, something that made sense for us. So I kind of imagined that had Black Wall Street been supported and not destroyed, it will be nothing other than the world's premier Black tech innovation economy. And that's kind of the origin of Black Tech Street, and that's our mission. Our mission is to rebirth Black Tech Street as a premier Black tech innovation economy, but also we're also trying to catalyze a global movement that causes a mindset shift in African Americans everywhere that sees them mobilize into the tech industry and embrace tech as a means to both build intergenerational wealth, but also to impact the world through their creative capabilities. So our 6 strategic pillars are entrepreneur support, narrative and communications, capital, workforce, infrastructure, and policy. In between those 6, we're looking to facilitate $1 billion worth of investment in this community over the next 10 years and kind of use Tulsa as a model for African Americans working together and using tech to solve major problems and build wealth.
Amazing. I have some roots. I got roots in Oklahoma, Norman, Oklahoma. A lot of my family, a lot of my mother's side, her family is from Norman.
Yeah, so. Man, Norman. There's a lot of, which is interesting. I mean, it's interesting that you say that, but a lot of people don't know is, Oklahoma was originally meant to be an all-Black state. You had many Black townships popping up in Oklahoma, and the plan was for it to be, essentially a haven for African-American entrepreneurship. And I mean, that's why you have Black Wall Street in Tulsa, and you had Boley and some of these other Black townships before that. But, yeah. I mean, clearly things didn't turn out that way, but that's how it was intended. So, I mean, that's interesting.
Beautiful. I've always seen some alignment here. As our mission is to create a new economy. I know the mission of Black Wall Street was to really prove that the economy could be built for all of us, that it could be inclusive of all of us, that there can be equity. And it was not. It was, we never saw, the benefits of that at all as Black people. And, me growing up and watching my family deal with the lack of equity in finance, especially in banking, in all of the economies. I mean, it's not just people think about just one economy, all of the economies, right? Not having a seat at the table in all of the economies. I've always had this fire inside of me to create change, some sort of change. And exactly, like you said, I think tech is the perfect vehicle for that. After coming out of school, you see, I mean, we're really in this whole tech boom right now. We see all these marketplaces coming. We see all these new companies popping up. People are starting to use different types of tech outside of what's traditional, but still, I don't think anything is serving specifically the Black community. And for me, I want to create something different. I want to create something completely new. I mean, we don't have enough time to wait, another 20, 30 years to be invited to the party. Like, we have to start making some substantial changes, starting today. So the Halo app is already changing the economy, right? We have a goal to put $9 billion back into families and communities that use payday loan storefronts. And we do so through connecting traditional payday loan borrowers with members of their own community. We have strong communities. Community is the heart and soul of our people.
Absolutely.
And so instead of relying on all these different variants, we connect the people that are being destroyed by our current economy through financial deserts, by not providing services, through redlining, through exclusion, providing those people with resources by tapping into ourselves. And it's been an extraordinary experience. And now we're kind of growing with that.
Yeah, I think that, ideas like when companies like Halo, and so many different ideas about how we're going to remedy these issues that we have really do get back to the heartbeat of how we build economies, which is one of the big reasons why Black Tech Street is powered by the global innovation company Second Muse, and they've had some of their speakers. Todd spoke in InnoPower. Jason Teeters is up next. Is going to be speaking again here pretty soon. That company, Second Muse, is really focused on figuring out how we can make economies work for everybody, and that they don't have to hurt so bad. Economies don't have to come at the expense of human dignity. And I feel that aligns so much with not only Black Tech Street's mission, but how Black Wall Street was built. And to be frank, I don't want to necessarily try to make it seem like, everything was perfect. Every economy does have some of its shortfalls, specifically in terms of, how it chooses to execute. But I think that the core message is that if we're really going to be able to unlock the full potential of human beings, specifically, especially Black people, as we've never been able to fully contribute to this economy the way we should be able to because of racism and because of different systems of oppression. If we can figure out ways to lift those barriers off of our people, not only will the economic impact be massive, but the social and innovation impact would be massive. Can you imagine how many African Americans? We already know there were a ton of African Americans who invented so much of the modern world today that never got credit for it because of the racist systems. But can you imagine how many more inventions and more innovations there would have been if all this time these oppressive systems didn't exist and our economies were built in a way that allowed us to mobilize fully our potential? It doesn't just put more money in everybody's pockets. It creates smarter cities. It creates smarter societies and just better overall.
Yep. Absolutely. Can you again, pleasure meeting you and just hearing everything that you're trying to build, but talk to me about your the motivations. I'm just interested every time I meet somebody that's trying to innovate in this space, especially when we're talking about economies and what is your main motivation?
Well, I believe that me personally, not only is it being birthed of the history of Black Wall Street. When you're born on the grounds of something like that, every person kind of grows up wishing that they would discover some incredible special thing about themselves, even though we're all special. But when it comes to that, it's like when you grow up wondering if you're born for a greater purpose, and then you hear that you're born on the grounds of Black Wall Street, and that's the same blood that runs through your veins. It's like the analogy I use. It's like being obsessed with having magic powers and then having Hagrid bust down the door and be like, "You're a wizard, Harry." It's like it's genuinely an incredible experience, and it's a privilege. I feel that it's my responsibility to carry that path, to carry the torch, the Black Wall Street torch, and to do my ancestors justice in the sense of showing that the blood that ran through their veins runs through my veins, and it runs through the veins of Black people really everywhere, and that what we can accomplish is truly limitless. So when that's one side of the coin, the other side of the coin is super, super personal to me. I believe that when it comes to impacting the world and when it comes to the work that we're meant to do here, human beings have two highest callings. The first highest calling is to love other human beings. The second highest calling is to creatively and positively impact the world. So, in my opinion, you're never closer. You're never closer to your creator than when you're loving people or when you're being creative. And I believe that technology, when used correctly and when used with the right lens, can be a means of alleviating so much suffering in this world. I mean, it's our gift. It's how we solve these issues. When we're faced with issues, we don't have to take them at face value and just live with them. We can figure out. We can use our creativity. We can use our divine spark to figure out how to remedy these issues, not just for ourselves but for other human beings. And Black Tech Street, more than anything, has really become a vehicle and an outlet for that. And I mean, it's a higher calling than I ever. I mean, at one point, it was. I was just thinking about this was years ago. I was just thinking about how do I start some company and make a lot of money, which is great. But I mean, it's become really an outlet for figuring out how I can not only lift the shackles off of my people using a story and inspiration of using the story and inspiration of Black Wall Street, of which I am immersed, but it also becomes a vehicle for figuring out how we can mobilize the full potential of our people to not only help ourselves but alleviate social suffering in a lot of places.
Huge, huge. Powerful about the calling. I think that's a huge part of, you know, why I started, but also like why I'm still here. You know, there has to be a greater purpose to endure what a lot of Black entrepreneurs have to endure to even get this space. Through man, I don't even think I'm supposed to still be here, but through faith and belief and the grace of the Lord, you know, I'm sitting here at a better spot than I can ever imagine, right? Impacting people's lives. And it all starts because of what you said. How do we create change in people, right? How do we make people's lives tangibly better? You know, one of our, again, I find myself like educating a lot of people I talk to because this is not a Black space at all, right?
Right.
So I walk into rooms and talk about this new economy that needs to be created, and I talk about like individual people that, you know, that have simple emergencies, just a flat. I'm trying to get to work. I just got my life back in order, and because I'm not served by banks, because I don't have a credit card that I can swipe, because I don't have a loan that I can get access to, I walk into a payday loan center that's serving as the bank for my community. I have to do a bunch of different steps that, you know, other people do not have to have, and I borrow $400 and I pay back $1,200. That can't be the economy that's left for us, right? And so instead, I go into an app very simply. We talk about technology. I get connected to everybody that already halfway cares about me, my church, you know, my community, my city maybe, and people inside of those communities can back me for small dollars. We have a self-sustained, balanced economy within ourselves. Right, so there should be no reason that we're reaching out for people that don't care about us and that want to charge us, you know, 400, 500, 600% for loans. So like that kind of stuff, and hearing the stories and the journeys of the people that we serve is what motivates me. And again, we have to have a deeper calling. We have to have a bigger calling, or else, you know, for me and my, you know, and my experience, we're not going to make it in this space. There has to be some depth, some, you know, serious foundation to what we're doing and why we're doing it, or else we're not going to succeed. Because just like the economy, the technology economy is not built for us either. So we have to face that head on every single day.
So I mean, and part of why it's so important, because I mean, and to be honest, you know, technology is much broader than a lot of people consider. I mean, it's not just digital, it's not just apps, it's lots of things. But again, how much impact any industry has on the world, and whether it's positive or negative, is going to be dictated by the spirit that rules the spirit slash culture, you know, that rules that industry. So I think a lot of it obviously there's programs, there's policy, there's a whole lot of different things, but I think everything begins with narrative, and that's kind of what began Black Tech Street in a lot of ways. It's because we have to be able to get our people to essentially look at the tech industry, this industry that is the core means of powering global innovation, and this industry that is the core medium through which things happen. And we have to get to a culture where Black people look at this industry and say, this is where I'm meant to be. One of the narratives, we're not creating a new narrative. We're trying to unearth what's always been. I mean, Black people have always been some of this world, the greatest innovators we've ever seen. I mean, whether it be George Washington Carver, or whether you want to go all the way back to the Empire of Mali, innovation has always been kind of in our blood.
Yeah.
And using a narrative to reawaken that will then also cause a culture shift within the technology industry that will allow it to accommodate us in a way that will allow us to actually mobilize in it and affect it in a way that I don't think anybody was really thinking that it would be affected in. There's a very specific image for who the successful tech entrepreneur is and who the technologist that's making breakthroughs, who they are and what they look like. But with the correct narrative, we can shift that to say, we are what the successful CEOs look like. We are what the successful technologist looks like. And we're the ones who can work to change the world.
And hopefully within your 10-year plan, and I know we're down to about a minute, but I know within your 10-year plan, I'm excited to see the people that are willing to support Black entrepreneurs to not have that narrative of, 1 in 1,000, right? Like, I had to go through all these hoops, did blood, sweat, and tears just to get here, to be in a position to support you or to invest in you or to provide you resources. I mean, because even that, makes this journey a little bit scary, right? Like, the people that can help me had to go through all these hoops, and they're part of the 1% of our community that made it through, and that's the reason they're able to provide resources. So I'm excited to see you and your team and your organization start to create, change the narrative, create new opportunities for people like myself, and create a network that supports of people that are in the same, kind of along in the same story and telling the same story, living the same story, and have very similar visions.
Absolutely, that's what it's about. It's about, it's about all of us. I am because we are. That's core. That's core, and that's crucial to our culture.
Well, thank you for having this chat with me. It was a pleasure. Again, love what you're doing. I support you 100,000%. I'm excited to continue our conversation. I know we're doing some stuff offline, but good to talk to you.
Absolutely. Same to you.